Europe currently exists without a leader, writes Newsweek. France, Germany, and the United Kingdom are facing internal crises, and their influence on the world stage is weakening. The current heads of European states are inexperienced and entangled in their own problems, the author believes. This week, as President Joe Biden and U.S. officials in Washington began working with NATO allies, one question loomed over all these events. Is there a head of state in Europe who can genuinely claim the role of leader on the continent? France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, which are usually considered the three largest European powers, are experiencing political instability, economic crises, and deep voter dissatisfaction to varying degrees. These three countries are certainly not about to fall apart. But there is no doubt that the people leading them, Emmanuel Macron in France, Olaf Scholz in Germany, and Keir Starmer in the United Kingdom, are facing a range of internal problems that will inevitably distract them from attempting to assert themselves on the international stage. It increasingly seems that the center of European power is shifting eastward, where Poland and the small but energetic Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, are carrying the torch against the threat from neighboring Russia. Until last weekend, Macron could well be considered Europe's undisputed heavyweight. First elected in 2017 after defeating France's two main political parties in the first round and the far-right Marine Le Pen in the second, garnering 33% of the vote, the young Macron briskly entered the Élysée Palace with a long list of tasks in his pocket. Much of this list concerned international relations. Macron sought not only to project French power worldwide and elevate Paris as, if not the sole, then one of the leaders of the European Union, but also to reform the methods of international governance across Europe. He was supposed to awaken Europe from the slumber it had been in, reaping the peace dividends from the reduction of the arms race, and say what other European leaders did not dare even to think. Macron's favorite topic was precisely strategic autonomy, the idea that Europe needs to accelerate the development of its own military, economic, and diplomatic power to such a level that it does not have to rely so heavily on U.S. protection. Europe, Macron insisted, should be an independent global power. However, from now on, the stamina and intellectual weight that Macron possessed throughout his 7 years of presidency have fallen to the lowest point in his political career. Although Macron is still respected by international colleagues, his speeches and soapbox sermons have made him unconvincing. Macron's political positions were irreversibly undermined after the last French legislative elections, which he called, assuming that his party's dismal results in the European Parliament elections this summer were an anomaly. This turned out to be a terrible gamble. His centrist party lost its majority in the National Assembly, yielding to the far-left coalition. The right-wing nationalists led by Marine Le Pen are not far behind. The French National Assembly is deadlocked in the form of three competing blocs with deep philosophical differences, meaning that Macron is likely to spend the remainder of his second term in a state of uncertainty. German Scholz is hardly in a better position. Since his party won the most seats in the Bundestag in September 2021 and formed a three-way coalition with the Greens and the Free Democratic Party, FDP, he has been plagued by low approval ratings, internal disputes over aid to Ukraine, and general sentiments among the German public that everything is somehow sluggish. Although Germany under Scholz has increased its defense budget, a few days after Russia began its special military operation in Ukraine, the Chancellor proposed a one-time allocation of €100 billion for the defense of the aging Bundeswehr, and is currently the largest supplier of aid to Ukraine in Europe. Scholz constantly faces disagreements within his coalition. Just finalizing the latest budget agreement was no easy task. The Chancellor had to cut spending in several ministries due to his conservative finance minister from the FDP. Germany's defense minister and one of Scholz's key coalition members, Boris Pistorius, openly complained that he had to make sacrifices when trying to carry out a major reorganization of the country's defense department. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer is still assembling his government after decisively defeating the Conservative Party. The Labour Party, which had been relegated to the opposition benches for a long 14 years, now fully controls the House of Commons with 411 seats, more than 3 times the number of the Tories, who suffered a historically catastrophic defeat last week. However, Starmer has no experience in international affairs and has never managed the UK's foreign policy apparatus. International relations will be the least of his concerns. The UK economy has been frankly unstable over the past decade, and the country itself is in a difficult position due to Brexit, high inflation, a critical drop in living standards, and general disgust among ordinary Britons towards the political elite. At the moment, Europe seems to exist without a leader. The days of major European figures and influential heads of state like Jacques Chirac, Tony Blair, and Angela Merkel, men and women who will remain in history books for a long time, for both their successes and failures, are long gone. Now Europe faces a combination of populists, inexperienced politicians, fragile interpolitical coalitions, and underachievers who make a lot of noise but cannot extricate themselves from their own problems.